Really cool main event this weekend. The UFC is doing an event in Des Moines, Iowa, which is really interesting, but I ain't complaining because this just means more crowded fight nights, and that's what we want. We want the UFC to get out of the apex, but who would have thought they were going to do an event in Des Moines, Iowa? Interesting location. So, really cool main event, and this is going to be a short one for me, guys. There's only 2 fights that I am going to be discussing on this card. Only 2, that's it. I'm only interested in 2 fights on this card, and everything else could go to hell. And that's, of course, the main event with Cory Sandhagen and Deiveson Figureiredo, who you see right here. A really just skillful bantamweight fight. 2 guys looking to bounce back in big ways to have maybe perhaps a shot at the bantamweight title. This is one of the most deep divisions. And then the second fight I want to discuss is the co-main event, Bo Nickal and Reiner de Ridder. I don't give a shit about any of the rest of these fights. I don't care about Junior Tafa. I don't care about Santiago Ponzinibbio or Montel Jackson. Like, if you wanted a comprehensive breakdown of each fight on this Des Moines, Iowa card, then stick around and hear my take on these 2 fights. But after that, I'm not doing any more of the card. I'm just covering these 2 fights, bro. So, yeah, Cory Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figureiredo. I love Cory Sandhagen, the Sandman. And Deiveson Figureiredo, of course, a UFC legend, just a UFC staple in the lighter weight classes, the really lightweighter class. If we're talking flyweight, that's where Deiveson Figueiredo was formerly a champion in the flyweight division. And Cory Sandhagen has always been a big player in the bantamweight division. He's fun, but they keep this guy on fight nights. He never makes it to the pay-per-views. I kind of want to see Sandhagen on the pay-per-view, and I also really a dream fight for a lot of UFC fans. And this is just this is something that is not discussed enough. How we still have not gotten Sean O'Malley versus Cory Sandhagen. That would just be an incredible fight, and the UFC had an opportunity to do it. Sean O'Malley did not really deserve another title shot versus Merab, which they're doing at the top of this division. And Cory Sandhagen was coming off the loss to Umar. You put both those guys together in a 5-round fight, and they give us a striking classic, and hopefully one of those guys comes out of it, because I like both, and one of them will get back at the title. Cory Sandhagen was 1 win away from getting a title shot if he would have beaten Umar Nurmagomedov. Like, that's what people need to understand, is that Cory was climbing that mountain, and he was almost literally there, but he just fell short against an incredible fighter like Umar Nurmagomedov. And a quick thing about Umar is I believe that Umar will beat anyone else in this division besides Merab. It would even surprise me that he beat Merab. Coming into that, there was huge narratives that Umar looked the part, of course, being from Team Khabib and this and that, but Merab stood his own. So, I mean, that loss didn't age so badly for Cory Sandhagen. Cory, he's a creative striker, and it's pretty funny. Lucas Tracy, I always bring him up. He calls this guy like beakers and test tubes, because I guess Cory Sandhagen experiments a lot. He's doing a lot of stuff in his training camps and really dialing down on the specifics of fighting. Cory Sandhagen, he had that crazy, decision with Font. I thought he finished Font. Who did he have that crazy knee against? But he also he had a nice win streak. Chito Vera, Song Yadong, and Rob Font before losing to Umar in Abu Dhabi back in August of 2024. He had that fight with Peter Yan. He lost to TJ Dillashaw. So very up and down. He's gone toe-to-toe with some of the best. Oh, yeah, that's who he finished. Frankie Edgar, where he had that crazy KO. Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, this dude's gone in there with... Wow, even Mario Batista was in the UFC back then. Very interesting. So Cory Sandhagen's had the up and downs in this division, but extremely fun to watch if he could, get to his creative space and be able to flow in fights the way that he wants to. Then he could be a real fun fighter, fun striker. And Deiveson Figueiredo, former flyweight champion, has now made his way into bantamweight. Was on a 3-fight bantamweight winning streak versus Rob Font. Comes into UFC 300 to open up the night and beats Kobe Garbrandt, and then had the fight versus Marlon Vera. But recently lost a sick matchmaking that the UFC did by putting him up against Peter Yan. So Peter Yan's on to bigger, better things, and Deiveson Figueiredo takes a little step back. And before that, you got to look at the entire flyweight career of Deiveson Figueiredo. He had the big trilogy with, oh my gosh, what was that? 4 straight fights versus Brandon Moreno. Wow, quadruple? I thought it was a trilogy. I gotta do better jobs on taking UFC knowledge notes. He lost to Brandon Moreno 3 times, but he beat Brandon Moreno to win the belt off Brandon, and then Brandon, of course, won it back, which made him the 2-division flyweight. Okay. Alex Perez. Alexandre Pantoja he beat back in the day. So Deiveson Figueiredo, the god of war, he comes in with that paint on his hair, and he's just incredibly fun to watch. That's why I really enjoyed watching him versus Peter Yan, 2 guys like that on the feet. So the UFC is giving us another fun one, and whoever wins this, it's a big bounce back to get back for not a title shot, but a number 1 contenders fight. Because I don't think either of these guys, just coming off their previous losses, could get thrown into immediate title shot. But maybe if Cory Sandhagen wins this and then Sean O'Malley somehow beats Merab Dvalishvili, we could see that happen for a title fight. That would be more sick. That's one of the fights I absolutely want to see before both those guys go away, and that's Sandhagen versus Sean O'Malley. I'm picking Sandhagen here. I like Sandhagen a lot, and I think he could bounce back. Unfortunately, with Deiveson Figueiredo, you gotta love Figgy, but whatever. He's older, and he was an elite flyweight. He's doing really well in bantamweight right now. He's won 3 out of his last 4 to start in bantamweight, and this is a fun matchup. But ultimately, I'm going with Cory Sandhagen. And then Reiner de Ridder versus Bo Nickal, the Mr. Dana White privilege. Like, Bo Nickal has been put into all these big fights so far in his career. He's 7-0. He beat Cody Brundage at 300, and then his recent win was Paul Craig at 309, and everyone was like, hold on there. This is the kind of performance you give us. Barely even doing any of your wrestling. You're supposed to be a elite collegiate all-pro wrestler, and he didn't even do any wrestling. He just kept on the feet with Paul Craig. Some could say, oh yeah, he was playing it smart, but yeah, didn't really shoot any takedowns on Paul Craig and made it an interesting fight. Well, if you were doubting that there was going to be if you were upset with that performance, you're damn well straight that you're going to have an incredible wrestling, grappling matchup in this fight right here. Reiner de Ridder is one of the fighters coming off from a different promotion, right? One championship or something. He's came into and beat his first 2 opponents in the UFC. Mearshart, GM3, and most recently Kevin Holland submitted him in the first round. So this right here, I love this booking. I love this booking because both these guys, I love this collision course that they have to meet, and only one of them could prevail. Bo Nickal's going to be forced to get uncomfortable and really need to dig deep in his elite wrestling tool bag with Reiner de Ridder, because right now Reiner de Ridder is looking pretty legit on the ground. To be able to submit Kevin Holland in the first round like that, make him look easy. I mean, say what you want about Kevin Holland, but most guys haven't been able to really do that in the way that he did. Reiner de Ridder. This is a fun matchup, and this really will show which one of these guys is actually legit about it. And it's kind of hard to pick. I mean, Bo Nickal, he's finally forced to confront and really use his wrestling in this type of stylistic matchup. This is a perfect stylistic fight to see. With these 2 guys, Bo Nickal, he can only be pushed so far, and this is the real test right here to show Bo Nickal's legit. He beats Reiner de Ridder, you get a little more credibility as you continue to move your way up, and then you could start talking big about Khamzat Chimaev. Bo Nickal's confidence and arrogance just doesn't resonate right now because he's barely shown anything and barely have the opposition to stand on to say, oh yeah, I'm this and that, and I could give Khamzat Chimaev the craziest fight of his life. And Reiner de Ridder, really impressive start to his UFC, but this is really will show if Reiner de Ridder is legit. That's it. It's this right here is an ideal next matchup to see. Get it out of the way. Stop giving these guys fluff ups in the rankings and the competition. force these guys to confront each other with some high intense grappling, wrestling, and see which guy comes out on top. And when it comes to the actual pick, this is a difficult one. Maybe not so difficult, right? I don't know. Bo Nickal? Is that crazy? Reiner the Ridder? Will Bo Nickal or Reiner the Ridder get fraud checked? One of these guys is going to get fraud checked. And I just don't know which one of these guys is. We'll see, bro. We will see. Bo Nickal, if he gets this win, though, that's pretty big for Bo Nickal. And Reiner the Ridder. So, yeah. Those are the only two fights I'm talking about. Don't really care about the rest of this card at all. Really weak card. Oh! Jeremy Stephens. I guess this is a quick little story to tell, but Jeremy Stephens is the who the fuck is that guy from Conor McGregor back in the day. Making a quick one-fight deal with the UFC after winning at Bare Knuckle, which is the thing that McGregor likes to promote. So that's just a cool little fight, I guess, on the prelims. It really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of anything. But just have to acknowledge that this guy is coming back for a one-fight deal on the card. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on UFC Des Moines, Iowa, with Cory Sandhagen taking on Deiveson Figureiredo. A nice, skillful matchup in the bantamweight division. And I like both these guys a lot also. And if I had to pick on who's going to bounce back and win, I'm going with the Sandman, Cory Sandhagen, to get it done.